This is Eastmans Elevated podcast. I have on great guests that are really knowledgeable, consistently successful. We're able to dive deep down the rabbit holes of these different subject matters of shooting, of physical fitness, of mental toughness and drive. All the different skills that make up a complete hunter that you can become.
Here's your host, Barney.
Hey, what's happening, guys? Well, I thought I'd sit down and record a brand new solo podcast. Man, just had some action here the last month. It's just been an absolutely awesome hunting season, and just want to share with you guys some of the happenings and some of the places I've hunted, and share some of the successes and failures and what I've learned. So this should be a good one, as long as I can still remember how to get on here and record a solo podcast. It's been a while, but it's been really nice. I've been able to focus on hunting and still release good podcasts to you guys, and it's just been an absolutely epic season. But before we get started, I want to thank our sponsors. I want to thank onX Maps. onX Maps is such a powerful tool. I think it's the biggest game-changing change to the hunting industry that we've seen in the last 10, 20 years. It's just absolutely amazing. So, you know, I use it. The GPS still works if you're not in cell service. You can save maps. So if you don't have cell coverage, you can open up maps, and you can switch between aerial imagery, topography, or they do a hybrid map with both aerial imagery and topography. You can mark waypoints, label things. You can share waypoints. Like when I harvested that bull, I'm able to then save that waypoint and then send it through a text message to my buddy Dan so he can meet me in to pack it out. We use that for sharing camp locations, for pickups, all kinds of things. You guys have heard me talk about it before on the podcast. You know, I don't even use a GPS anymore. I just use my phone with a GPS that's built into it. And like I say, your GPS still works even if you don't have cell coverage. And then I use onX on my computer, on my phone. I use it scouting. I use it in real time on the hunt. I use it after the hunt, after I get back. It's just one of the greatest tools I've ever found. You can get a membership to all 50 states for $99 a year. It's just a great deal. Or if you only know that you're going to be hunting one state, you can just purchase that state and have access to it. You know, it's so handy for private and public. And this year hunting, you know, I was hunting a new spot south of here. And I was hunting this new spot, and I actually found, you know, we started seeing elk, and they're on the edge of private and public, and you can just hunt that with confidence because you know exactly where you're at. And I actually found a spot you cannot cross corner to corner of public land. So it's a rule that's out there, but sometimes every once in a while, it's not a glitch in the system, but to make everything work out in our state, they have to shift the state layers. And so there was actually a corner to corner that had about a 25-foot touch in the corners where it overlapped, where then you could access all this public land that sat behind this private. And it was just epic hunting in there that nobody had figured out. And it's just such a great tool for real time for finding things like that. So if you don't have onX, make sure to check them out, download the app and use it. It's a powerful tool. And thanks to those guys for sponsoring the podcast. It's always nice when, you know, it's these products that I believe in and I use all the time. And then to have these companies stand behind the podcast is just awesome. I believe in them and they believe in me. So make sure to give them some support and some love. Thanks to onX Maps. With that, let's get into this thing. Man, oh man. What a hunting season. This has just been a dream come true for me. So I have set out my entire life, and I've always said, gosh, wouldn't it be nice to take off the hunting season? Just take off bow season and go. And it always seems like this far-fetched goal, you know, to me where, you know, I get a week off, maybe 2 weeks off, and then, you know, I'm a weekend warrior, and that's fine. I've always been good with that. I get back, get work done, and then, you know, back out for the weekends and try to add a day here or there. But I've always wanted to just take the season and hunt. And every year I'm able to add a little bit more time, you know, especially I've just set up my life that way. And so through the construction company and then, you know, through this this deal at Eastmans with the podcasts and the writing, I'm able to generate a little income from the hunting industry and really able to focus on it. And so this year, I just let everybody know and let everybody be aware. And I mean, the other thing too is my family support, which is just crazy. My wife, she supports all my crazy passions and knows how good it is for my spirit. And she's just on my side on things, And so I have pretty much been gone. I mean, started in August in Hawaii, and then antelope, and then we left on those couple back-to-back mule deer hunts. That was really fun to share with you guys. So I really enjoy doing the live podcasts. I'm going to be doing more of them. I just struggle with being in the moment, enjoying the hunt, enjoying where I'm at, and capturing content. Like there's a little bit of a struggle there. Like I love capturing photos and videos, but I just have to decide what type of content I'm going to grab, because it's too much to try to film the hunt, to try to do an Instagram story, to try to get photos, and then do a live podcast. I just spend all my time trying to gather content. So I do have to find the right mix. And so I do have some live recordings that I recorded here and there, and I was trying to put it together, but I just had too many irons in the fire. We were also trying to film this one, and so that's why this is a recap podcast and not a live one. But I think it'll turn out really good. I think I can tell the entire story of my elk seasons and the happenings. And really, when I get back and I'm able to reflect on it and really think about it and think of what's important, when it's fresh, it comes out pretty good. But yeah, this hunting season has been incredible. Man, I just had the time and had a bunch of tags, and that mule deer hunt started off. I fell short on that one. I really wanted to kill a good buck this year, and I pride myself on high country mule deer and being proficient at it. And I think I told you guys on the last podcast, I'd have to add it up in my head again, but it's like 12 years in a row on a high country mule deer. But I still have a couple mule deer tags, a couple rut tags. So the season isn't over. I can find redemption there. And I just, I was really proud of myself at that hunt and how hard I pushed day in, day out. And just like any hunt, I just tried to make it happen. I tried to create an opportunity to loose an arrow, and it just wasn't in the cards. And, I've came to terms with it now. Failure's rough on me, and I'd like to tell you it doesn't bother me. Man, it bothers me to my core. It tears me down. A lot of my personality is based on my hunting, I don't know that I want it to be that way, or I want to have that much pressure on myself to be successful, but I just feel like, you guys that are following along, and proving it to myself and proving it to you guys that hard work and effort pays off, that you can be successful being a blue-collar, working-class bow hunter and go into these public lands and turn up next-level giants. That's what I'm always trying to prove to myself and to you guys. And it's... I say it all the time. It's like the toughest thing out there, the toughest challenge you can take on, the toughest thing in the world is trying to arrow a public land critter with your bow and arrow. It is extremely difficult, and everything has to go right, and you have to be on your game. And I've come to terms with when you take on these extremely difficult tasks and you keep raising the bar for yourself, eventually you're going to fall short. You're going to fail. And failure, it's a prerequisite. And I've failed so many times in bow hunting, it's necessary to pick yourself up, to grow from it, and to get better, but you can find consistent success out there. And I have this example that I'm trying to wrap around my head. I'm trying to relate it to. So, I was following David Goggins on that 240-mile Moab race. That guy is a savage. I love reading his book on mindset. And that guy would die out there for his cause and for mindset. And not that you want to take it that far, but man, is it inspiring when you see somebody commit themselves and dedicate themselves to a cause that's bigger than them. And David Goggins, so you probably heard about it now. Now I've been seeing everybody post about it, which is great. There should be, he should get publicity from it because it is absolutely amazing. So he was running the Moab 240. He got lost in part of it, went an extra 7 miles in one direction, 7 miles back, so an extra 14 miles tacked on top of it. And I heard or I watched some of his Instagram story, but he was saying at like mile 187, he got pulmonary edema, like his lungs started to fill with fluid, and that guy is hard as they come. For him to throw in the towel or go to a hospital, and they told him, if you go get medical treatment, you're out of the race. And rightfully so. I mean, the race director, they can't condone going out there like having somebody die on the course, so they've got to watch out for their safety. And sometimes you get such a cause or such a goal in your head, and like I say, I think David Goggins would have died out there to finish that race, but he went in the hospital, he got treatment, he was disqualified from the race, and went on there and went talking, and then he started feeling better, and like the next morning out of the hospital, they released him, and he goes right back off to where he left off on the race. The race is over with. They won't let him finish, so this is he's just under his own power unofficially, and he gets running again and then finishes the race. I mean, it damn near brought tears to my eyes. It's just so motivational, so inspirational. I know how tough running is, and I it's just incredible. So he failed, picked himself up, and created his own finish. And in that failure, watching David Goggins fail in that goal that he set forth, he was just had a screaming pace. He trains like a madman. But when you set such lofty goals for yourself, sometimes you come up short. And so I could really relate that to like my high country mule deer. I gave it my absolute all and did everything I could do in my power to try to be successful, battling weather and secondary bucks, and just pulled all my skill set together to try to kill a buck. And most of the time it works out for me. That time it didn't. And when you set really lofty goals, sometimes you're going to fall a little short, but it isn't how you fail, it's how you pick yourself up again. Like Goggins being back out there on the trail and finishing that race unofficial, man. That's just so awesome. So I just want to do the same thing and carry the toughness of that hunt into my next hunts and into my elk season, which I really felt like I did, and into my late season. And now, one season wraps up and I finish my late season hunts, it'll be training like an absolute madman for that high country early season, which really drives me. I just love hunting those things in that extreme environment, and hunting them out of a backpack is like the purest way that you can backcountry bow hunt. And, past that, I just want to enjoy the time I have a field too, and the time I get to challenge myself, and I really do. I look back on that, and it was just an awesome experience. But I fell short. I got to pick myself up and do better next year and work harder. And I mean, it's already, I love the process so much. I come home and I get a day off, and instantly, like, I just can't even take a day. I'm out with my dog. I'm running miles. I just, being fit and in shape like that helps me so much on these backcountry hunts to push day in, day out. And I rely upon my fitness so much that I get home and I just don't slack. I get back on the trail, back shooting my bow. I know I'm going to have to rely upon my bow. I did have a miss on that muley hunt too, on that sticker buck. And so, it's just like picking myself up, getting better and improving, and doing better next time. So anyways, it is what it is. I'm not going to talk about it seems like the human brain, you focus more on your failures than you do your successes for some reason. And I use it as motivation and try to turn it into the positive. But I think it's just the way we're wired as humans. Like, if you mess up or you make a mistake or you fail, you remember it because you have to improve from it and get better. If you hit your hand with a rock, you got to remember hitting your hand with a rock so you don't do it again, or whatever the case. But I think it's just the way we're wired. And then, I just don't rest on my successes. Like, I harvest an animal, and boy, I'm out the next day working hard, and I always think, I'm so fortunate and so happy to be successful. It's just incredible. It's like reaching your goals. It's the pinnacle of the mountain. It feels so good. But I try not to rest on that. I try not to, if I just sit back and think about how good I am, and how good I killed that animal, and what like, all of a sudden I'm not putting in the work for the next one. And every hunt you have to prove yourself again. But I love this endeavor, this sport, this whatever you want to call it, this bow hunting. it's just been so positive for my life to have passion and to have adventure. Man, it's just incredible. I'm just a blue-collar construction worker, and I've been able to figure it out where I just have these amazing adventures. And sure, there's always somebody that's doing, something on another level, or, not even another level, but just like, there's sheep hunters out there, and there's, there's always somebody doing something that you look at and go, man, I wish I could do that. But, there's so much opportunity out there for the blue-collar bow hunter on these public land tags, and it just takes effort and dedication. And then, these adventures, man, I mean, this is the reason to live life. And everybody finds, a different passion or something that they love. But I have found backcountry bow hunting. It's just my thing. I just, I love being out there. I love the challenge. I love pushing myself. And then to just live this adventurous life, it is so fulfilling. Like, I just come back and think, man, I am really doing it like that. It was the coolest 10 days of my life, chasing these bull elk or chasing these bucks, and what I get to see, to be part of, to put in all this hard work and then see that just epic action hunting. I mean, that's what I truly love, those adrenaline and just the chances at these things and playing the game and being in close. There is nothing more exciting or more thrilling in this life that I've found than playing with your bow and arrow and trying to get close to this switched on quarry or whatever it is, elk or antelope or mule deer. So, man, it's just absolutely awesome. So I come back from these hunts or these adventures, I mean, totally fulfilled. And it really gives me perspective on my life. And I know I talk a lot about being a better person and better husband, better father. And, I have been gone a lot and I've had the support of my family, but and now it's really about getting back and being the absolute best dad I can, best husband I can, taking care of my work, catching up there, making sure, I've got a house going right now, making sure everything's going smooth there. So yeah, just kind of catching up, taking care of my responsibilities, and it feels really good. I was able to go out and have my adventure and have the support of everybody, and now it's time for me to do my part. And so, I missed quite a few volleyball games, so now I'm back in the volleyball circuit with both daughters, and I just want to spend quality time with them. I mean, the meaning behind life, it is adventure and challenging yourself. It's also family and friends, man. I mean, family and friends is absolutely everything. And it is true enjoyment in life to spend quality time with family and friends. And I love my family more than anything. And so to spend quality time with my girls, plan another vacation with them, try to hang out with them and do some fun things. We got some hunting coming up I'm really looking forward to. And just trying to do everything I can. These girls are going to be raised and gone, building lives of their own before I know it. And, hopefully I can continue to be a part of those lives and we can find some things we enjoy together. But time is precious. And so family and friends and with friends, man, I've been able to share some great hunts with friends. And I think that's the biggest bonding moment for me. Like, the people I keep in touch with and my best friends are my hunting partners, because we both enjoy the same thing, and we end up, it's not very often that you can go out with a buddy and spend a week together. You just don't do it unless you're going bow hunting or, maybe you're going fishing or something like that. But going hunting with my buddies and spending this quality time, I've had so many laughs and good times and adventure, epic action. It's so fun. I love doing solo hunts, but I love sharing these hunts with friends as well. And as I get older, I tend to do less of the solo hunting and more of hunting with buddies just to share the experience. And I love being part of their success and helping making them better. I've Dan this year, he harvested that really good mule deer in Wyoming. I just took off from this elk hunt. I just saw he killed a really nice Montana mule deer. And then he called me last night and had harvested a bull in that spot that we were hunting in Montana. At least got a good shot on a bull. He has to recover him this morning, but just pumped for him. My buddy Sean from Hawaii, we had the Hawaii guys down here. And Sean, he harvested an antelope, and so that was a really cool stock. And then we were able to get him a bull right before he left, which was really cool. So he'll be bringing home some elk meat. What other buddies have I been hunting with here? Cameraman Logan, he's always fun to hang out with. But, yeah, spending this quality time with friends is just awesome. So, elk season, that's what this podcast is all about, is elk hunting. Yeah, let's see. So, finished up those mule deer hunts, came back for a couple days, had to get some work done. I kind of play catch-up in between. And then, yeah, I had this out-of-state elk tag, and so headed down there. I had the Hawaii guys with me. I had Dan with me. I'd scouted this unit really hard. So I knew there was good elk numbers in there, but it's just, you just got to get in there in September and see what's going on. Hawaii guys had to hunt, while I had that couple days of work, they hunted around here in some of my local spots, and they did good. They were getting into elk. And then we rolled on this hunt, and they did great. They were keeping into elk. Everybody was getting into bulls, and I kind of hunted with Dan, and we spotted a bull right away, or a couple bulls right away. Man, it's just playing the game so good. With these elk, it's so about getting that wind right. You just have to have a consistent wind, and getting that wind right, and that higher understanding of that wind that I tell you guys about, that higher understanding of how the winds move through the mountains. And really, it's just paying attention to the winds all the time, and then trying to decide if that's a thermal or a directional. And there's some place in the mountains that just swirls around. I got a spot locally here that I probably dove down in this basin 10 times, and I think I've been winded 10 times. Like, you just can't go into this thing. It's the lee wind side, and the wind just swirls in there. And now that I know that, I stay up high because there's always elk in there, and I wait till they come out of the drainage into a good wind face, and then I'll make a play on them. But anyways, trying to understand that wind, we started turning up bulls right away, and good 6 points right away. And had this spot in the mountains where we found a pretty good herd, one really good shooter bull. We had that thing. We crept in with a good wind, and that night we had like a thermal coming down the draw, and it was just perfect. And we snuck up there, and there's elk everywhere. And eventually, you just got to go get into the elk. And you guys know my tactics for elk. It's not the most popular ones out there, because I just don't call anymore. I don't even bring calls with me. I just move on the herd. I don't let them know I'm there. But all of these tactics, they all work for calling too. And I probably called 100 bulls in my bow hunting career. Mostly in my younger years, that's how I used to hunt them. And these tactics hold true for hunting bulls while calling or just while stalking. Just trying to creep in and get in close and then make a couple calls from the right spot. I always thought calling, it's more about where you make the sounds from than the sounds you make. Like being at a saddle that they're moving towards, or being in the timber they're headed towards. That bull will just come check you out. Or getting really close to his cows and threatening them and making a bugle. Or getting really close to his cows and making a couple soft cow calls as your first call. Then he comes over to come check out that cow. So these same tactics hold true, but I don't carry any calls with me anymore. I hunt them all spot and stock. I like to hunt them in their feeding features, and so, I'll try to get on them morning and night, and then, I'll try to coyote the herd in the morning and follow them to their bed. If I can bed that bull in an exact spot and I know where he is, then I feel comfortable creeping in with a good wind and trying to make something happen and get into range. But if not, then I'll just put them away, and then I'll be out that evening, and when they come out in the feeding feature, I'll go make a play. But these bulls, man, they just have a knack for making the right move. I mean, we would get in range of the cows. We had this nice 6-point bull. He came by me at like 55 yards that night on that first bull I was telling you guys about. Bugling like crazy, came through, and just didn't offer a shooting window. And I decided sometimes I'll make, the only call I make is, ew, and that's when I'm at full draw looking to shoot that thing. It's like just to get them to stop. But sometimes I won't even make a cow call, and I'll just let the situation develop. Because if I stop him with the cow call, it's all or none right there. And if I don't stop him in the right window, then he's on to me. He knows I'm there. Or, maybe he goes back to being a bull, but maybe kind of, spooks off a bit, or, decides that isn't a cow down there making that sound, or whatever the case is. But so we started hunting bulls, and man, we were just on them and finding good 6-point bulls, the ones we're looking to kill, and making plays in the mountains, and just trying to make it come together, and couldn't really get a shot or anything. God, we had one bull one night, really nice bull, big 3s. And we were watching a bull on the far timbered hillside, and then we had one way up, on the ridge up there at about 9,500 feet. And in that big timbered hillside, it'd take a day to get over there. There was a really nice bull. He was just hanging in the kind of thicker stuff and coming out in this slide. And so we're trying to make a plan of how we'll get on him. And then all of a sudden, 250 yards away, I see a bull that comes out. He's got these big 3s. It's a great big 6-point. He's got a handful of cows. We got a steady wind up there, and we start creeping into this thing. And man, if it can go wrong, it will. So we creep in, and we get to the edge of the meadow, and all of a sudden we have the elk, and they're coming at us. They don't see us, and kneel down, and we don't see the bull yet, but we see the cows, and they're all just right in range, 40, 50 yards, just feeding around. No idea we're there. And we have a chickmunk. Is it chipmunk or chickmunk? I'm such an idiot. I don't know which one. But a chickmunk, that doesn't sound right either. Anyways, we have this chipmunk, and God, we're just sitting there still and kneeling, and all of a sudden this chipmunk starts to go nuts, just yipping at us and yiping at us, and he just won't leave us alone. And pretty soon, like, the elk are just tuned into their environment. They know that something's not right. And so all of a sudden now they're looking up, and we got a perfect wind, haven't moved, and now they're just getting nervous. And they end up busting out of there and taking that bull, right when that bull is going to come into range. So it's just like, if it can go wrong, it totally does, So many scenarios like that. But all you can do is you just play your best move. And I love elk hunting because elk are meant to be hunted aggressive. You got to go get into them, You got to go see if you can get into range. But it's like this fine line, or this dance between trying to get into them and then when you freeze and when you hold up. And definitely not stalking recklessly. Like, you can't, one elk catches you, the whole scenario blows up. And it may have taken you who knows how many miles, 6 miles in, 6 miles out, just to get that encounter. So elk hunting, you have to rely upon your skills so much, and just getting you in close and rely upon your instincts to make the right moves. But it's all about freezing when they're looking at you, seeing them before they see you. And I did a really good job this season. I had a couple mistakes that I'll talk about, but for the most part, making good plays. So that first bull we found, we actually backed out that night. The elk didn't know we were there. We had that bull within 100 yards, right, the last light with his cows right there. Backed out of there. We went in the next morning, got on him again. There's another 6-point bull in there. Played the ridge, tried to cut him off. The fog came in, the rain came in, and we weren't able to cut him off, but we heard him bugling in the timber, and then we didn't take chase. We backed out of there. And so we're just leaving these elk where they're at, and we're making plays and trying to get close. But if it doesn't come together, back out of there and leave those elk, and then you can get on them the next day. And so we were doing a really good job of that throughout the hunt, but just started getting on elk and having close calls. And then, we were into it handful of days. And it's weird, like the elk, they, at least in my home valley and around places like this, it seems like it gets late in the season. The feed burns off up high, and we were later September. I didn't start hunting them till, the 17th or 18th or something like that of September. Maybe it's the 15th. Let's see, the hunt ended on the 14th. Yeah, I think it was 17th or 18th of September. And as it got later in the hunt, by about the 25th or so, or 22nd, these bulls, the feed starts to burn off up high in the mountains, and it seems like these bulls drop down and then group up, and they're looking for second cycle estrus cows. And so, we were hunting the mountains hard and getting into good bulls, but all of a sudden we started to see these elk pile off these mountain range, and they're going down into this sagebrush flat down there. And there's nobody really on them, but there's, some really good bulls that are dropping down to this sage. So the next morning we kind of find a vantage point, and there isn't a real good spot to glass this sage. It's just kind of flat and rolling, but it's like one of those things, once you get out there, there's a bunch of coulees and draws and features, and really it's like hunting these antelope, or hunting these elk like they're antelope. You're hunting them in the wide open. But, we were still hunting and making plays in the mountains, but we would also keep our eyes open on the sage flats. Like, there's good bulls that are starting to group up down there, and if nobody's on them and they're in a good spot, we'll make a play. And so we spot this herd down in the sage flat, and it's a big herd. It's like, I don't know, 75 elk maybe even 100. And there's a couple shooter bulls in there. There's this real wide one and then this real tall one, nice 6 points, and they're just on public land just cruising. And it's like, man, well, I'm not afraid to hunt anything in the wide open. In fact, the more open it is, the more I like it, And so we see these things and they kind of move out. And so I kind of come at them one direction. I just start making a play on this big herd and just traveling with them. And at one point, I crept in, and I had the satellite bulls I could have shot. There was a bunch of satellite bulls in there, but I didn't know where the herd bulls were. And they were actually, like, you have this deal when you're coming over a rise where you can see the elk that are out further, but you can't see the elk closer because you can't come over the rise far enough, or you expose yourself coming over the rise, so you just have to freeze. So I think I had some of those herd bulls in range, but I couldn't come up any higher. I had 4 or 5 satellites bedded on the far hill looking at me, and then a couple satellites I could have shot, but everything was pretty much in range. And all of a sudden, the scenario kind of blew up a little bit. I don't know if an elk got nervous or something. They definitely didn't spook. They just all kind of got up from their beds and then started feeding down this big draw again. So here I go again. After crawling in and getting in range, it didn't come together. I back out, and then I just start coyoting the herd again, keeping a good wind on my side, watching them, waiting for a moment to creep in, and I keep with them for, they didn't move too far, maybe a half a mile or so, and then they start bedding down again. The bulls are rutting and bugling, and so, I start creeping in, and it's one of those stocks where you kind of see them out there, and you're like, can I get there? And it's like, well, if I can make it over this one rise, and there's a little dip there, I think I could get close, but to get over that rise, I had to belly crawl, and I had, elk that were staring in my direction, and I was exposed even though I was in the sage. So I just had to move like a snail, move my bow in front of me, just drag my body, and then I could get, behind the rise where I could crawl. But I pretty much, I think I was on these elk for like 4 hours. I belly crawled so much, my knees, my elbows were so sore, and I don't do a lot of belly crawling. Like, I'll belly crawl, like, you have to do what's necessary. You have to get low enough to where things can't see you. So, if you got to crouch down and walk, you crouch down. If you got to crawl, you crawl. If you got to belly crawl, you belly crawl. But I just know it's kind of a losing endeavor. Belly crawling in, like, you also have to get up to your knees to get a shot. And a lot of times that's when it blows up, especially when you're belly crawling into 40, 50 yards or whatever. But in this case, there was a little ridge line that I could get to, and then I could kind of get up to my knees. So I was all in, and a lot of times I'll just wait for him to get to a better spot. But I've got these couple shooter bulls, and you put a great big 6-point bull in front of me, like I'll do about whatever. You tell me I got a belly crawl for 400 yards, like, all right, let's get started, but just exhausting. It's like a yoga pose the whole time, and just trying to keep low enough and not move. And then a lot of times throughout the stalk, an elk gets up and he's looking your way, and you just got to freeze. So you'll spend 15 minutes just frozen in that spot, and then eventually forget about you or doesn't see anything and goes back to being an elk, maybe beds down again. So I crept into this herd and got into the herd, able to get up to my knees and get my bow up. And I just wait. I'm really patient. I don't, there's 12 elk that are looking in my direction, but I just wait till nothing's looking my way or till their heads are turned, and when I can see, like, none of the pressure is on me, and then I move like the hands of the clock to get my bow set up, to get to my knees, and then just come up slow. And I'm exposed in the open in bow range, but I'm moving so slow, and then I get in position, and then they just can't pick me out because then I'm not moving, But this is so crucial on stalking animals and closing the deal on elk, on deer, on whatever. This latest hunt, this is my first hunt I'm talking about. We'll go to the latest hunt that I just had in my home state, but on that hunt, you just can't those elk, they've been hunted. It's a higher pressure area. They've been chased by humans. They know what humans are. Those elk are on another level, and they live in the open, and they really rely upon their eyesight. And, man, if they catch any movement, if they catch anything, they're busted out of there. We had one, I filmed this last hunt, but we had one bull, and, God, it was the first night, we found a good 6-point, roll down, get into him, get into bow range of the cows. All the cows are feeding at us, which is just killer. And then all of a sudden the bull shows up with the cows. Here he is, this giant 6-point, and he doesn't walk right where the cows does. He kind of walks in front of us. And I looked over at my cameraman, gave him the thumbs up, and he gave me the thumbs up like he had him. And the bull scraped a tree and then walked out broadside. So I drew back on him. He was right in my wheelhouse. And as soon as I get to full draw here, my cameraman goes, "I don't got him." It's like, oh my gosh. And so then I had to let down my bow. But to draw my bow and then let down my bow just created too much movement. Those cows caught me and blew up the whole scenario. So my point is, you just can't get away with anything. And so if those elk are looking at you, you can't hardly get drawn. Now, there are some instances where the gig's up. The elk all know you're there, and they're still standing in range, and you try to get drawn slowly and try to get your pin on an elk. But for the most part, once they know you're there, once they catch that movement, they blow up and they're out of there. And you think those bulls would be so focused on rutting, and sometimes they are in lower pressure areas, but those elk I'm hunting, man, those bulls I'm hunting, they are switched on. They don't put up with anything. They'll walk away from the herd, and if they see movement, they're out of there. They know we're hunting them. So, anyways, we're in Idaho, can't get away from it with movement. I finally get to my knees. I get my bow up. Now, there's 2 to 3 bulls I'll shoot in the herd. There's 2 big ones, a wide one and a tall one. There's also like a good 6-point, solid 6, and that solid 6-point is the closest one to me. And he's fairly close to me. He's bedded, and I'm thinking if I'm going to shoot this bull, I'm thinking, I'm in tight. I got to go for the gold. Like, I got a chance to kill a real giant bull here. There's 2 big ones in there. I'm going to roll the dice. If I don't kill one of these things, that's fine, but I'm going to roll the dice on one of these 2 big ones. And sure enough, that wide one comes around and gets rutting a cow and comes around. He's a little bit further than the other 6-point, but it's time to go for the gold, and I'm in close. I mean, I've got, cows at 30, 40 yards, and then I've got, bulls at 50, 60 yards, and then, this big wide bull comes over and gives me a good shot, and I wait for the right angle, the right time to draw. Nothing knows I'm there. Quartered away, put one in him. Sat on my shot, executed, put one in him. None of those elk knew I was there. That elk, he ran around the whole herd 100 miles an hour, ran around the whole herd, and then tipped over right there, dead within about 15 seconds. Oh, man. I mean, so wild when it comes together like that. And you guys know, I had, we talked about my mule deer failure this year. Well, last year's elk season was a failure to me. I hunted new spots, and then I had that rest not fall away the last day of the season on a good 6-point. Last year was the first year I ate an elk tag, and I don't know how many years, a dozen years or so. And, it hurt, and it hurt all year long, and that's all I thought about, and I studied, I put in the research, my shooting, physical fitness, put in everything into it. But I really, I've killed a bunch of good bulls over the years, but I just, I love chasing those big, heavy 6-points, like big, real deal bulls. And, not settling this year and looking for my gold bull and then being able to arrow one just means the world to me, man. I mean, it's redemption, proving to myself I can do it again. But yeah, able to arrow this nice 6-point. He's a wide sucker, just a really nice, pretty long tined. I think he's like a 6x8. He's like a 6x7 frame, and then he's got a little couple-inch dropper off one of his beams. Just an absolute awesome bull, and killed him in the wide open in the sage. But I'll hunt elk wherever they're at, and just happened to be where they were at and on public ground and able to get a good arrow in. I'm so stoked. My goal for this year was to kill one good bull between the states. So I stayed. I helped Dan hunt. Dan's such a good hunting partner. I love hunting with that guy. And elk, if anything, is his kryptonite. Oh, excuse me. Just murdering some coffee here as I'm doing this. It's kind of in the AM. But yeah, if anything, elk or Dan's kryptonite, he is such a good elk hunter. He's always getting into them. And like I say, things just fall apart, and they're the most thrilling animal to hunt. And Dan's killed a bunch of good bulls, don't get me wrong. But he just he has a tougher time with those than he does mule deer or antelope. I'll say that, but he loves to hunt them, and he's a great elk hunter, and he's great at executing a shot. And like I say, I just heard last night he arrowed a good 6-point. So stoked for that guy, man. He has been grinding over there. So really pumped for him. But yeah, I stayed, helped Dan out, and yeah, he had some close calls. He had one bull, he missed it at like 50 yards or so. He was just set up perfect, and got some wind drift in front of the chest of the bull and missed the thing clean. He was so upset. But there's nothing you can do. You just got to get back on that horse and get hunting. But got that bull out, helped Dan for a while, and then had to come back. The Hawaii guys were still here, so we went up. We took Sean up. Robin had to take off. Yeah, I really wanted Robin to be successful this year. And then we had another one of their buddies out, but just wasn't in the cards. And Robin had a bunch of close encounters, got on a bunch of good bulls. And then his last night here, he got into the party, and that's when you kill him. He said there was like 6 different 6-points in there. They were running everywhere. And I think he got a little greedier. The same thing I did. He was just going for the gold. He was going for the big one out there because he was so big and he had an opportunity at him. So he was passing other bulls that he would have been happy with, for the entire hunt to go for the big guy. So he rolled the dice and came up a little short on his last night. And he wanted to change his flight so bad because he was just into the party and wanted to stay, but just had too many responsibilities he had to get back and take care of. So he had to fly out. Sean stayed for a little while longer. Yeah, we got into some elk. He finally ended up arrowing a good bull, and so super stoked for him. Him, and Dan packed that thing out, and then I had to come back, take care of some work, some responsibilities, and so I got back, started taking care of that, and then I had this filmed hunt that I was going to do in Montana, and filmed hunts, it's a love-hate relationship. I just love hunting so much, and I love getting close and getting in action. And like I say, bulls, they were my goal this year. A big part of my goal of my season was to kill good 6-point bulls. And so like you're out there, and all of a sudden you got this added degree of difficulty. And let me just be honest with you. Filming is made for like epic hunting. It's made for private ranches. You don't see too much public land bow hunting filming. Like, there's some guys out there doing it, and there's some guys that are successful at it, but the majority of the stuff you see is like, buying a hunt on a private land ranch, and then you're just into the elk all the time, and then you can have the added degree, the added difficulty degree, with a cameraman, because you get enough opportunities, and the elk are low pressured, they don't know humans are hunting them as much. Now, I'm not saying it's easy off private lands. That's not what I'm saying. You still got to hunt elk. You still got to get into them, get it done. But it's a heck of a lot easier than battling everybody on public ground and then trying to film it. Sometimes I just feel like it's a losing endeavor, and I know I'm costing myself animals or size, and so I struggle with it at times. And then it's frustrating when it's not me that messes up an encounter, it's my cameraman, and probably the reason I didn't fill out in Wyoming. I'm not to blame it on my camera. I made tons of mistakes there too. Like, we're a team. We're there to get the footage. We're there to get the film, and you just kind of set your mind to it. And it is really fun to be able to share it with you guys, share it with my family and friends, and be able to watch the hunt and then have it for all the time. So, I am really proud of what I put together. I just couldn't hunt it. I couldn't film every hunt. And it is so difficult out there. Just the noise alone, trying to sneak up on a bull. And I don't call, so like, we're not just set up calling where a bull walks into us. We've got to play the game and coyote with them and try not to get seen with 2 people rather than 1, and try to set ourselves up right, or creep in on a ridgeline, and then we got to come over the top and try to shoot that thing. It is just extremely difficult. I find myself getting a little frustrated. I need to be better with my attitude at times. I was driving and pushing so hard. I was unsuccessful on that Wyoming filmed hunt, and now I'm into my Montana elk hunt, and I'm having a tough time finding success. So, there was definitely a couple F-bombs there, and I was riding a little higher strung than I should be. I did just relax and enjoy the experience, and I just said it's either going to happen or it's not, but I am going to enjoy the elk hunting out here. It's the best elk hunting I've ever seen. I had a new cameraman, so I'm kind of training him from scratch as far as stalking and what moves he can make from the back position, and he's a hunter, but he's a 20-year-old kid that doesn't have a ton of experience, and so I've got to teach him how to stalk and to move like I move, make less noise than me, when he's doing when we're on the stalk trying to kill an elk. That's what he's focused on. It's not getting B-roll. We can get that anytime. You do want to capture the stalk and capture everything in real time, but you know what I mean. You can't be getting to the side of me trying to get a shot when we're trying to sneak up on an elk. It just doesn't work. You got to be focused on the doing what I do, but extremely, extremely difficult. But I had a good kid with a good attitude, and so yeah, we went for it. Okay, guys, I drank too much coffee. I'm gonna pick up where I left off here. I gotta go relieve myself, or I might just explode here on this chair. So hold on one sec. We're gonna take a quick break. All right, I'm back. While we got a little break in the show, I just want to take a minute here and thank Evolution Outdoors for their support, sponsoring the podcast. Evolution Outdoors is a new broadhead company, and so did a podcast with them. Man, I mean, what a great broadhead. And so I tested them this season. So far, I've ran them through 2 elk. I ran the fixed blade through one and the expandable through one. And they both perform flawlessly. I really think this is one of the best broadhead designs on the market. And I'm just walking around with an extreme amount of confidence. They're really forgiving. Like I said, I like their fixed. I like their expandable. They're just both great heads. So if you're in the market for some new broadheads, make sure to check them out, Evolution Outdoors. Okay. So where was I at? I was whining about taking a cameraman, right? Or complaining about how tough it is. But, I took on this challenge, and it's like, I really want to come through with Eastmans. They have so much invested, paying the cameraman, paying the permits, and then, I just want to come through and prove myself. So we did this elk hunt, and I'm really excited to capture it. I just want to do it like I have been, where I only choose 1 or 2 hunts a year, and then the other ones I get to just focus on the hunt and enjoying that, maybe doing some of these live podcasts or doing an Instagram story, but it's really tough to do it all. So anyways, cameraman, it's tough. Let's start. I show up in this spot, and I haven't hunted it for a couple years, but I love this place, man. I mean, it is full of elk. It's October. So a lot of the people or the pressure's gone. The elk are still rutting like crazy. And so we start cruising around, checking some spots, and man, I'm just coming up empty. I can't hardly find an elk. I found 3 satellite bulls, nothing I wanted to shoot. Start cruising around, found a rattlesnake. It's always fun, right? Just buzzworm right next to you. Just like, holy cow. Never seen me jump so high seeing those things. But, yeah, saw a buzzworm, and then just can't seem to quite get the elk, but like the roads have just cleared up. Like the mud's just cleared up where you can kind of get back to some different terrain. And so kind of get back, start checking my spots, can't turn up any elk. And then, finally I start finding a few elk, and every group of cows I find has a nice 6-point bull. And so we got that encounter. Like I said, cameraman didn't have him in focus. And, in that situation, I got a little frustrated. I used an F-bomb, and that's on film for everybody to enjoy. It's just like great. Just captures you at your lowest moment sometimes, where you're just, and I don't want, I'm always happy for the encounter and happy I'm bow hunting and happy for the challenge, and sometimes my frustration just comes out. I wanted success too much, and so screwed up. He didn't get it on camera. And if actually, I put the blame on him for not having it on film, but really the blame is solely on me. I looked over and got a thumbs up, but I knew the bull was coming to a dicey spot, and I should have just waited. Me drawing my bow meant I was all in. It was either going to happen right then or not. And I saw a window, and I had a great shot at him, and I thought it was all going to work out. But in hindsight, that bull probably he was going to chase off another satellite bull. He would have returned back to his cows. He would have been right in front of us, would have been better footage. And it's just like sometimes just being patient and not making yourself seen makes all the difference. So like I may say that it was his mistake not having, but really it comes down to me and trying to force it in there and showing more patience and just letting situations develop. When you have the wind right, you can just be patient, let things develop. We had plenty of light left. We had a half an hour of light left. So, ultimately, it wasn't his fault, and he did his job, and we were committed to the film. I could have shot that bull, just paid him for his film days or whatever, or, I could have just shot the bull and had a bull and said, well, that's the deal. You didn't have him on film. I got my bull, but I didn't. I'm committed to the film, and so it was a really nice 6-point that, ended up spooking away because after I got drawn, the cows saw me, and after I let down, the cows got spooky and got out of there before I could get a shot at them. Got more coffee, so hopefully I don't got to take another pee break. Hoping to get through this and not make it too long like these solo ones. I really love doing them, but, I definitely like that live hunt. I think that thing was, what was it, like 3 hours of live hunting? So thanks so much for sitting through it. I want to do more of them, more concise. I swear I can get better at it, but so got that encounter, and it's just good hunting around. Like, we're not into epic hunting elk everywhere, but it seems like every morning and night we're finding a bull. And then the key is to try to get into them and create an encounter. So a lot of times when you're putting a bull to bed, then that's where you're hunting in the evening because there's a bull there. You don't got to start over and go find another one. And so we're just trying to keep on them. We got on this really good 310, 320 bull. Had a bunch of cows we spotted one night and then got on them in the morning, and man, well, we cut those things off. Cut them off going back into the trees, sneaking around them. Could have shot a smaller bull there, and I almost had that bigger 6-point. The smaller 310 was running the herd, and then the 320 satellite was working in, and we had them cut off at one point, and I tried to get drawn on them and kind of come over the ridge. And when I say get drawn and come over the ridge, it's let's see on this one. I'm trying to remember if I drew and then kind of tried to stand up slowly, I think is what happened. Just trying to get my arrow over the brush line. So tough, like even to get a range, and to get a range, you have to expose yourself over the grass, and there's so much dead grass, or it's not even dead grass, it's like this dead mustard seed stuff that's really dry and sits really high. Like sometimes it's 3-4 feet off the ground. And so you can see the bull and the bull's body and his horns and his hip, but it's so tough to get a range. A lot of times I'll range the horns, and that'll give me a good range. And I did have a range mistake on this hunt. I'll get into that. So we cut these elk off. I try to get drawn and come up on that bull, end up busting them. That bull, like I say, they're on it. Like none of the cows could see me. That one bull was crossing. At one point he was looking away. Again, just being more patient, waiting to where eyes aren't on me or where I can get away with it. But I drew and I tried to come up. We tried to get him on film, and that bull barked at us and then took the whole herd, and they went and spooked over. And we actually got on another bull that morning. Sounded like a dragon of a bull. Had a real deep bugle. We kind of followed his bugle for a while, and then he kind of quieted up, and we knew he was in the thick cover. I didn't want to blow him out, so we decided to go back and wait, and then we'll dive back in on him in the evening. And actually, those two bulls, that 310, 320, they probably went like a mile. That one bull had barked, and then I actually saw where they put away, and they were bugling back and forth with this dragon bull. So we're just in them, man. I mean, this is the action you're looking for. And sometimes elk hunting, I mean, you search 3, 4, 5 days just to get into this kind of action, but we're in them. So we go back up. We're going to take the middle of the day off and kind of just resting, having some lunch. It's elk hunting. Morning and nights are good. Middle of the day, if you know where one's bedded or if you're able to see some, it's a good move. But for the most part, we're just waiting for the evening for this bull to come back out and bugle. And then all of a sudden, here it is. I spot some elk, down in another feature off another drainage. And so then we're down in there the middle of the day. And then we start getting into such epic elk hunting down there, or we see so much sign. Then we dive in there and forget about the other couple bulls. And, man, I mean, we're just getting good plays on bulls. We're getting really close. Had a really close encounter with the herd. But it's always, those bulls are just one step in front of you. Like, getting into range is one thing. Getting a shot's another thing. Like, all of a sudden, the bull will just be on the other side of the cows, or you can't find the bull even though you got a cow at 40 yards and you're frozen there, and you're just hoping that bull will come check her out or come see her. So we're just playing the game. We're hunting elk. We're trying not to blow anything up. But we're also trying to be aggressive and get in and get a shot. And Yeah, I had one missed range on a bull that I was telling you guys about. God dang, I had this bull. Epic elk hunting, and this isn't just like we found where the freaking party was, and the deal is the snow came in, and so big snowstorm, dropped 6 inches of snow or whatever, got super nuclear cold. It was getting down to like single digits at night, and the highs were only in the 20s. So it was cold. It was like November mule deer hunting. Like you had to pack on all the layers you had. But what it did is it scared everybody off. And then that moisture from the snow, anytime it'd melt on that road, it'd mud it up. So we were almost stuck in there, but we were the only ones in there. We had the whole entire place to ourselves. And we were just in the party of elk. And I'm not talking like one herd with a couple bulls and 3 satellite bulls. Like that, there was that there times like 8. Like there was big parties. Like there was elk I couldn't even get to for a couple days there. The elk hunting, I'm sure I've seen better elk hunting, but I can't remember when. I mean, so many good 6 points ripping around here and there, and we had it all to ourselves. We couldn't move around from the truck at all. Like the truck was pretty much stuck. We could get up to the main road was about it. Like there was one day we really couldn't get anywhere. But even just we camped in the right location. We moved around, camped in the elk where we had seen a few elk, and this like. Other elk just lead to seeing elk leads to other elk, to other elk, to other elk. I've always believed that. Like sometimes if you see a satellite group of bulls, if you go in there, you'll find the herd that those things are around. And likewise, you find in these herds, and then you're just diving into country further and further, and then that herd, and then all of a sudden you see another herd, or there's another one down there. And man, I don't know. It was just. Elk are so nomadic by nature that you have to just keep pushing in these ridge lines and these hunts and these vantage points and looking for them. And sometimes you turn up a herd with a bull and you get a play, and it can be a little slow, or you turn up nothing. But every once in a while, you find the super party. You find where all those elk are and where all of them are mingling, and that's what we were in, and we were camped in it. And the only guys there is just absolutely insane, man. I passed on some really good bulls. I didn't settle. Passed on some of those satellite 6 points that years past I would have shot, or you get an opportunity late in the hunt, or you think, well, it'll make a film, which isn't the reason to shoot anything. I shouldn't even say that, but it is like, if you kill a nice 6 point, it makes a film that you can share with everybody, and then you can share all that epic footage. But again, you just want to shoot a bull that you're happy with. I want to be happy at the end of the year. I don't want to feel like I settled in. Not that anybody should feel bad for it. Everybody's on a different level and has different goals in mind. And I just know for me, I've killed enough bulls with my bow that for me, it's just got to be a mature big 6 point. Now, I don't need it to be a 350-inch bull. Like, I just need a good one, like a good, mature, heavy beam 6 point, real deal, as I call them. But some of these satellite 6 points will sure test you. I had a 6x7 one night, and he was super tall. God, he was on the edge. I almost went and shot that bull. He was in the perfect spot, but I ended up passing on him. I knew it was good hunting, and we're just going to continue to grind, and we're going to get a chance at a good bull. So that's exactly what we did. I had the one I missed the one night. Oh, it should have been a dead bull. It was like a 7x8 or a... it wasn't the biggest bull in the world, but he had a couple extras off his main beam back there, and just a pretty looking one. In fact, I have a skyline shot of him with the sunset in the backdrop, and made a play up a draw on this bull. We'd just been on another bull, and I glassed across the drainage and caught this one, and there were satellites in there and cows, and we had a good wind and snuck right up the drainage with enough light. And then sure enough, here comes the cow and the bull right behind her. And they're right there feeding. And I mean, they were feeding for like 15 minutes, and they couldn't catch us in this open grass, but I could not get a range through. The grass was just dang near impossible. It was just so tall. I could get an arrow over the grass into the bull's body, but I couldn't get a range on him. So the cow was in the lead. Finally, I could get a range on the cow. And the cow was right at 60 yards or something. I figured the bull was like 3 yards closer. I think I dialed for 57. So instantly, I don't have a range on the bull. I just figure he's closer, and I kind of do an estimation. And, it's 15 minutes, 20 minutes of being in range, and you're really, like, you want to be patient, but you also want to look for your shot. Like, things can blow up pretty quick. Another elk can work into us, whatever the case is. It's also getting dark. We're losing light. So I made a judgment call. I had a range on that cow, 60. I figured the bull was 57. Look back at my cameraman. He's ready to go. Draw back. And man, I just settled that pin. I picked a hair on that bull and executed. I was beside myself. I freaking missed that thing. I missed him clean. I thought for sure I hit him. I went up there and looked for blood. I saw the bull on the next ridge over. He went over the next ridge. Didn't even really know what spooked him, and he was over there still rutting or whatever. But god dang, I missed that thing clean. It had to be the range. I know I executed my shot like a pro. It had to be the range. He had to be, maybe he was only a yard closer than that. Maybe he was a few yards. I don't know what it was, but I must have missed my yardage by a couple yards, and I think I shot under him. I'm not sure. Missed him clean. So, it just is what it is. You're just like, man, I'm just beside myself. I hate missing. I hate, messing up an opportunity. And it was such a dead bull. He was right there. Didn't know we were there feeding broadside. But you can't ever have those shots back. All you can do is, like, try to figure out what went wrong or figure out what you need to do on the next one and pick yourself up and get hunting. And we're in the most epic hunting. There's no reason to be down. There's no reason to be upset. It's good hunting. Missed a bull, so be it. I still got my tag in my pocket, and we're going to go hard tomorrow. So, we just keep hunting and keep into elk, and Dan's into elk. He's hunting with me over there. He met me over like a few days after we got started. Really fun to share another hunt with Dan. And Dan's pushing hard. Of course, I got that Idaho bull. Dan really wants to kill one bull this season, so he's going hard. And so we're just trying to figure out the best plays. And, Dan helped me kill that Idaho bull or gave me the stock on that bull or whatever. And we go back and forth. And so I'm really trying to help Dan out. I'm trying to give him the best opportunities I can. Elk everywhere, but the elk that we could see, or we'd see a good bull, sent him after the big 340 bull one time over the edge, another bull over that we had spotted. So just trying to send him for bulls and trying to help him be successful as well. And then I just take off on hunts or take off to a vantage point, and then sure enough, turn up a bull. It's just epic hunting, man. It's so good. It's what I live for. Whether it's antelope, whether it's mule deer early season, mule deer late, whether it's elk, New Zealand, Hawaii, you name it. What I love is bow hunting action. I just love being into them, just being into the party, and there's a bull, and there's a bull. There's so much excitement. It's so thrilling, and you're trying to do whatever it takes to make the right stalk, make the right moves, and put a perfect arrow into him. But I'd say my funnest thing at bow hunting is getting into him, and I just love that there's this quality of hunting still out there on public ground, that if you work hard enough and put in the effort, like, you can go get into the absolute elk party, and you may go 5 days without seeing an elk, but eventually, if you spend enough time, you look through your glass enough, you're gonna turn up a good elk party and good elk action. And man, just every night I would close my eyes and all I could see was bulls bugling in my dreams or in the darkness or whatever. It was so action. It was so off the hook. I just knew I was gonna kill a good bull. I just had to keep going, And so we go. See, that morning we start off, let's see, I'm thinking of so we're epic elk action, and then, I'm getting down there in days. I got a couple days left that I can hunt. I've got to get back home. I've got some responsibilities here, so even though the season doesn't close till the 20th, my last day I can hunt is the 15th. Actually, I got to be home the 15th. Last day I can hunt is the 14th. So I just know I'm coming down to it. Just got to keep after him, keep making intelligent plays, keep pushing, keep grinding. It'll happen. And so we just got some epic action the one night, and the miles was crazy. You're doing elevation, you're doing 2,000 to 3,000 vertical, and we're clocking over 15 miles for quite a few days. We did a couple days in a row over 15, in between 15 and 20. And that's just on that stupid little phone pedometer that, I don't know if that thing shortcuts me. I think running it shortcuts me a little bit, or shorts me a little bit, because it doesn't have my stride right. But, it's fairly accurate when both people's phones add up to that. You're like, yeah, well, it's probably pretty close. But yeah, 15 to 20 miles a day, a bunch of elevation. We are grinding. We got into him that one night. I about shot that bull I was telling you about. I think it was the night that I missed that one. And there's still bulls bugling all around us, but we have walked so far from camp that, we got to walk for half the night to get back. So I cut up, and we cross a road and then walk back into camp. And it took us, I don't know, show up at 11, 12 o'clock, something like that. And So you go to bed, get a few hours of sleep, and then you're just so excited to get back in that spot. So we start rolling in. We spotted a bull immediately, a nice 6-point with some cows, and sent Dan in for that one. Dan went in and made a play on that one, and then we kind of dive in this canyon where we had heard, these elk, and it was off the hook the other night. We get in there, and instantly we start hearing a bugle. And it's a big dragon of a bugle, like just big old bull, just scariest bugle you've ever heard. So we're instantly trying to find that bull, and we come up to some cows, able to get in range, and again, I didn't settle. There was a 6-point bull with these cows, but I could hear the big one bugling up the hill, and we were in bow range, and so I thought for a second, I'm like, well, we'll just get in close, and that big bull, he may come down here. But as we started sitting there, that big bull, he was just a couple 100 yards away. He was not going to come check out these cows, and the 6-point that was with him was like a small little spindly satellite 6 or whatever, so I didn't want to settle on that bull, and so we actually ended up dropping down the canyon, working around these elk, and coming up the other side, and then we're coming up the other side, and I spot a 5-point up there, and we're kind of stuck for this 5-point. He's a couple 100 yards away, just feeding on this hillside. There's a cow there, so I figure this is the herd with the bull, and then all of a sudden you hear him sound off. He's just a dragon, he's right there, just screaming at you. It doesn't get any more exciting, and then the big bull, like that 5 points over the hill, and then that big bull comes over, and he's just screaming at that 5-point, chasing him around, trying to chase him away from the herd. He's just not happy with him at all. And finally, they kind of move off a little bit where we can get down and around and come up that hillside where those bulls are. And so it's all just like these patient plays awaiting the elk to kind of move and get in position. I mean, there's times in this hunt where we'd be frozen for an hour, sometimes even longer than that, 2 hours, waiting for the elk to move into position. It's like you take what they give you, but you just don't make yourself seen. You don't go all in until it's the time to go all in. You just kind of wait and travel with the herd and kind of look for your chance, look for your opportunity. And so that's exactly what we were doing. And the bulls finally moved off, and that cow moved off, and so then we're able to make another play up on them. Got just a good steady wind, which just puts a smile on my face. If you got a good wind, you can kill a bull. And so we roll up there, and we get up, and then we come over the top, and there's that 5-point, and he's right there. And it's like, we've watched this big bull now a time or two come chase off this 5-point. And so we know that big bull's around, and we're hoping he'll come over and chase off that 5-point again. And so we get right inside that thing's range. Like, we're maybe 40 yards from that 5-point or whatever, and the 5-point beds down. So we're stuck. We can't see the herd, can't see the big bull. All we can see is this 5-point satellite that's blocking the herd that we can't get to. And these satellites, God, they do, like, you think you want satellites in a herd, but they really block you from getting into the cows or getting into the herd bull. They're always just bedding just off the herd. And it's always like right in your wind approach or right the way you got to come, and they can see you, It's just elk hunting. It's like, it's just extremely tough, and you got to hunt them really patiently and take what they give you. So we sit on this 5-point bull, and we sit there, 40, 45 yards or something, and we sit there for like a half an hour. Finally, this bull gets up, and he moves back towards the herd. Well, the big bull sees him moving towards the herd, and he starts screaming and coming over to chase off this bull. So all of a sudden, we're in the game. And I'm trying to move up, and we're trying not to get seen, and this big bull's up there on the ridge, and he runs off the 5-point, and then he's standing up there. And I just keep creeping in, and we got good footage of him and trying to get a shot at him. I think at one point, like, I had a good range and had him broadside, and, try to draw back or try to get a shot, and then he starts walking again and had to let down, and then he beds. And it's like, okay, well, there's no shot, and I can see a couple cow heads, and he's just bedded right there. And now we're into like mid-morning, like it's like 10 o'clock in the morning or 10:30, 11, something like that. And so we creep in and we crawl in, and it's noisy. And so as we're kind of creeping in, like, gosh, you just got to be so still, so quiet, so slow. But it's like a muley buck. I know he's bedded there. I can just take my time, and we can just see his rack above the grass. And we get in, we get right into bow range, but I can't get a range on the bull because I can't come up high enough because there's a cow to his right that's staring in our direction. But I was just patient. I try to get up, and I'm trying to get a range through the sticks. I want to know his range so when he stands up, I can shoot him. But I know that I don't want to expose myself and blow up this whole scenario to try to get a range. I'd be better off to let that bull get up, let him feed around, get a range, and then shoot him, rather than let those cows or let those elk know I'm there. Like the element of surprise is so important. If they know somebody's there, or they know something's not right, they don't walk towards that spot. They don't act like normal. They know something's after them, and they kind of get the heck out of there. And so you just want to make your presence unknown. You just the element of surprise, and just let elk be elk. We sat there for 2.5 hours. Finally, the one cow put her head down, and I was able to come up over the grass, and I was able to get a range on that bull. And he was right inside my wheelhouse. He was closer to 65, I think, but he was right there where I knew I could make the shot, and I had like cows at 40 yards. So 35 yards. So it was like I couldn't get any closer. This is my opportunity. I'm going to wait. And who knows, maybe that bull will get up and he'll come check this cow over here on the ridge and give me a decent shot. 2.5 hours we wait. Switching different positions, legs going to sleep, but just a steady wind in our face the whole time. I'm finally able to get a range on the bull. And then I watch a cow walk by him, and that cow's up on her feet feeding. And it's like, okay, here we go. It's going to happen. I'm up to my knees. Got my bow up, rangefinder ready. I got a range on the bull, but again, I just missed one from a bad range. I'm not going to make that mistake again. I'm going to make sure I get a good range on this bull. Even though I know the range and my sight's dialed and I know where he is when he stands up, I'm going to hit him with the rangefinder again. I'm going to make sure I don't mess this thing up. Finally stands up, bugles, but he's facing dead away from me, and I get a good range on him again, so I know I've got the range. But he's just dead away from me, and so I wait, and then he turns to the left, and he starts going to the left, and he's just walking, and same thing, I don't want to blow up the scenario, but he walks right out of my life. He never gives me a shot, never stops. It's like, oh my gosh, just sat here for 2.5 hours, and now the cow that's 40 yards, she stands up, and now she's looking down at us. We're pretty exposed from that cow, especially after she stands, and the bull just walked out of our life. We can't even make a move. We can't even make a play. And we're just frozen there with that cow staring at us. And I'm like, man, this whole thing is going to blow up. And finally, that cow goes back to feeding and forgets about us and kind of feeds over the ridge. And all of a sudden, I can see the bull's horns. And he's kind of coming down the same side as we are. He's worked back around towards us. And now he's just feeding around in kind of this tall grass or whatever. Look over at my cameraman. He's got him, get the thumbs up or whatever. And so now I'm just looking for a shot. I think I drew on that bull. I think I drew on him 3 times. I drew twice on him, and then he'd just twist or turn, and I didn't have the right angle, and it was just him and that cow right there. The other cows had kind of moved off or were feeding up on the ridge, and so I'd draw back, and I'd start settling my pin, and then he'd twist or turn, and then I wouldn't have a good angle on him. I'd have to let down. But finally, he gave me a good angle, and it was a quartering away angle, and ran that arrow up through him, put a good shot on him, and he ran up, and then he stopped up there on the ridge, and so I dialed, and I put another one in him up there. So I went up, and then, the blood trail is just it's like you want to see it in the snow, just spraying everywhere. I know I got lungs or whatever. I gave him 30, 45 minutes or whatever. And these elk are so tough, you got to put a good shot on them, and then, give him some time, and I knew I had one arrow in him, and then I went up and found the other arrow, put the second arrow in him, and so then it was a good blood trail, and we started following him in, and we didn't make it 20 yards, just barely into the timber, and we jumped that bull. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're kidding me. There's blood everywhere. I was like, man, how in the heck? And so we jump him, so we go back, and we back out of there, don't make any noise, and give him, 3 hours to die in through there. I think the first shot I had was quartered up in him, but hit him back a little bit. And then second shot was pretty good in through there. When we finally found the bull, it was zipped right through the vitals or whatever, kind of a little bit low, but we go back 3 hours later and track him down. I'm just nervous. It's like, man, these elk are such tough animals, hope the shots hit true, but start trailing them down. And sure enough, like, where we jumped him, he made it another 50 yards and died. He didn't even make it 100 yards from where I shot him at. Elk are just such tough creatures. And yeah, the first shot was a touch back. Second shot was a little low. They both zipped through the vitals of that bull. He wasn't going anywhere. But yeah, amazing. He was still alive 30, 45 minutes later or whatever. Just super tough animals. But man, so stoked. I mean, pay dirt in Montana, like really good, heavy 6-point. It's pumped beyond belief. Like, when it comes together like that, it's just magical. So, so fun hunting these elk. I was just so fortunate. I haven't traveled as much hunting elk as I hunt mule deer, but I've been applying for points, and I just want to make sure it's a good tag where I can chase good bulls. So, it was fun to go out of state, fun to so forth. I just wanted to kill one good bull this year, and I ended up with 2 good bulls. So yeah, a bunch of great elk meat, and so many great memories. And like I say, the fun of bow hunting is the action and getting into them and making plays. And man, I had it in spades. Like, this last hunt was just absolutely incredible. The timing was right. Found the elk, just got on them, saw some really nice bulls, saw some absolute hammers, able to harvest a really good bull. Stoked. The only thing to close off that trip is to have Dan kill one. So we stayed, packed out that bull, helped Dan the next day, and hunted around. And then I had to get back, and so I had to leave Dan. He's out there still grinding away. And then I saw a picture come through. He checked in with me. I definitely want to keep in service with him when he's out there by himself, that I'd, help him pack an elk or give him a ride, or, if he needs anything, make sure to get a hold of me. But, he harvested a good buck, and there's some good bucks out there this year. The buck populations are doing good, but he harvested a good buck the one night, really nice wide 4-point pump for him there. And so got the photo from that. And then, I've been keeping in touch. And then I think he arrowed that bull last night. So, waiting for a picture this morning. Said it was a nice 6-point. So good on him, man. He's a good hunter and just been grinding over there. So that's the only thing that would complete my hunt, is to have Dan kill one. And so I think he's got his bull now. And so we'll hope for the best and hope he trails him today. He said it was middle of the body, quartered up in him last light, and the bull went down a couple hundred yards and bedded down. So I think he's hurt pretty bad. But yeah, pumped. What an elk season. What a hunting season. Like, to have the time to go chase this adventure around and then find such epic hunting. It's just it's the coolest. So I can't wait. I got some other hunts coming up, a couple mule deer hunts, but I really got to get back to work full time and family full time here and kind of get life back to normal. And I may have to be a little bit more of a weekend warrior for these trips. We'll see what I can do. And I got to get back to the podcast here and get recording and releasing to you guys and writing. And, your life's just kind of, when you're focused solely on hunting, which is what I'd love to do, like, kind of neglect some other parts of your life. So I definitely got to get back to those, but I'm really looking forward to these muley hunts. And then, I'll probably go down and hunt coos deer in Arizona, maybe do some desert mule deer in Arizona. So I still got some great hunts coming up, but, we'll kind of get back to life as normal and get everything back on track here. And then, keep bow hunting. But I'm going to be shooting like a madman, running my miles and training. Hard work just pays off. And, I just want to be well prepared when the opportunity presents itself, or when I do get a few days to go hunt again. Man, I want to be ready for it. So super pumped. Well, that's an episode, guys. Thanks a bunch for listening in, all the support of the podcast, and support of me throughout the season, social media, the Instagram and things. And man, I really enjoy doing this and sharing my hunts with you guys and sharing my journey with you. And I love getting on good guests and talking about their successes and just having these quality conversations about next level bow hunting or next level hunting in general. There's still really good hunting to be had out there. It's just, hunting is it's one of the most difficult endeavors on planet Earth. And if you want success or consistent success, it takes hard work, dedication, discipline, doing all the necessary things to prepare yourself for those opportunities. And even then, you still come up short. It's when you take on the toughest challenges, like, sometimes you fail. David Goggins is a perfect example. I remember, I had a situation that I relate to that when I was 25 or so. I was getting ready. I think I was getting ready for like an out-of-state Nevada hunt or something. One of my first out-of-state hunts. And I remembered, I was running a bunch, and I had taken on these challenges of doing 10Ks and half marathons. And, that year I wanted to train and run a marathon. And I remember I got all my training in between bear season and hunting and things. And then, I'd signed up for a marathon and my family came with me and things. They were going to watch and cheer me on. And I remember running that marathon. And, I don't know that season, if I'd quite put in the work to do a marathon. Like, I had definitely put in my running miles and things, but, I don't listen to training programs very good. I kind of come up with my own. And, and I don't know if I had enough discipline, back when I was 25. I definitely didn't have the discipline or the dedication that I have now, but I had that fire burning, and I knew fitness was such a major component to my success, and so I really wanted to do a marathon. And, I started running that marathon, and it was quite a bit of elevation gain and loss. It wasn't like a standard marathon, flat or downhill or anything like that, and started running it. And I started cramping up so bad around mile 18, and then miles 20 and through 22, just brutal, tearing me up. I could hardly even move. Now, in hindsight, I think I could have finished the race, but at about, I think it was 21, 22 miles, I tapped out. I didn't hit the finish line. My family was waiting for me at the finish line. I got a ride to the finish line. It's so embarrassing. It was like this huge epic failure. It was like I came, I put in the training and then came down to the day and my legs cramped up, and really I quit. I could have walked to the finish. I had such a good time going too. Like, I think maybe that's what it was, is, I'm trying to remember back. It's been 15 years or whatever, but I may have, I wasn't the smartest racer, and I may have pushed my pace too fast at the start and just burned myself out. But mile 20, 21, I just had nothing left. My legs were cramped up. I felt like I couldn't go anymore. I couldn't run anymore. Now, I could have walked to the finish. I could have hit the finish line, but wasn't what I set out to do. I wanted to run a marathon. So I failed, show up at the finish line, and I got to see my family. And, man, it's just like I'm at this low. I had taken on this tough feat, and I had failed. So, like, in true fashion, like, I found the next marathon, the next weekend, my legs were so sore and so blown up. I didn't do any training days. I didn't run at all anymore. That whole week I didn't run. And so that was Saturday when I failed on the marathon. The very next Saturday, I was entered in a new marathon, towed up to the starting line, and there was no way I was not going to finish. And I did. I finished my first marathon a week after failing on a marathon. Gosh, it feels good to find redemption like that, to finish what you start, to finish your goals. And, and then after that, I ended up, running a bunch of marathons before I found trails and ultra marathons, and I really love trail running. And I do have to set some more goals for myself. I really want to run a 100-miler. I've ran a 50-miler before. I'd love to run a 100-miler. It's tough because it takes so much focus. And I love focusing on Western hunting. I love getting my trail miles in and running. But all of a sudden now, if I'm training for a 100-miler, I can't spend the time, bear hunting in the spring. I've got to put, more effort into my training. But I really need to take on that goal and do it and accomplish it for myself. It's just something I want to do. I want to run throughout the night with a headlamp and then finish. And endurance teaches you so much about yourself. And I just love endurance sports and pushing myself and my limits. So I definitely have to do something like that. But I've just been so focused on this bow hunting lifestyle and being as good as I can at that, and getting my training in and my shooting in, and then my days of field. I really think that's what makes me a good bow hunter, is the time I spend in the field, the amount of days I spend stalking and looking for and hunting. Experience is such a great teacher. But anyways, okay, I'm off topic. I've gone too long already, so we better wrap this one up, guys. Again, appreciate all the support, and thanks for listening in to the podcast. And with that, let's thank our sponsors, OnX and Evolution Outdoors. Both of them make great products, and we really appreciate their support. And I think that's it. I think that's all I have. All right, guys, check in with you next week.